former MP Hilary Calvert joins us now, former ACT MP. Hilary, I was just talking about people putting on weight at Parliament. Did you put on weight?
Yeah. No, I didn't. I was sort of, I guess, in a slightly different position because there wasn't a lot of us, and we weren't, if I can put that politely, a very cohesive, one way or another, I wasn't in a position to be very social with the others.
Oh, we're talking about the ACT Party. Who was in charge then, Rodney Hyde or Richard Prebble?
Rodney Hyde.
Oh, okay. Well, he ended up in a minority of one, didn't he?
And I wasn't his fave, I'd have to say.
No,
so the chances of him inviting me out for dinner or helping me get bigger by wanting to eat with me or anything was not much in that sort of social sense.
It's difficult to explain to people who don't work there or who haven't been there, but Parliament is genuinely a fishbowl, isn't it? It's almost hermetically sealed from the outside world.
Yes, except, like, I'd be sitting around in Parliament of an evening, as you do, 9 o'clock at night or something, and somebody would send me a message saying, "What have you done to your hair? It looks horrible."
Was that your husband?
Really? No, just saying a random member of the public.
Oh, because they were watching you live on television?
Yeah.
Oh.
I mean, that they sort of, in a way that, recently people have said it's hard to be an MP with the abuse and things on social media, and it wasn't so much social media harassing, but certainly women are held to a different standard than men. And you, in fact, started this conversation with the women in particular get heavier in Parliament.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm thinking back now to my time. I think the trade service was probably less sophisticated than it is now for your time in Parliament. But it's just an unhealthy lifestyle. You start early in the morning, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. The cabinet ministers obviously on the Monday. They don't go home until 11 o'clock. Alcohol used to flow pretty freely, and it was a great social leavener, I have to say. But I suspect this lot are quite abstemious by comparison.
Yes, and you're also not in charge of your own destiny, sort of, either. You never know what's going to happen.
Yes, particularly if you're on a list MP, you mean?
Well,
or anyhow.
in general,
yeah, anyhow.
You're not
no,
in
you're
charge
right.
of your
No,
agenda.
you're right. Yeah.
So all of a sudden, you can't say, "I'm going to have dinner at a particular time," or "I'm going to have a good healthy lunch," or anything, because if you're a senior person, you never know what's going to come over the horizon.
No, that's right. No,
so you haven't got control of anything. So your meals are too big, or they're snatched from. They're not. You can't just pack up your nice healthy lunch and pop off to work and think you're in charge of anything. It's just not like that.
No, it's an unusual place. No, the reason I've just said that is I don't know why I got into what people weighing extra, but China has just been called out by New Zealand. That's not.
Yes.
I mean, whoop-de-doo. I mean, at the end of the day, they've known about it for 3 years, and they've just finally made it public now. But and that's primarily because last night, our time, the British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak went mad and called out China for generational, it would seem, hacking in the UK of both Parliament and of their institutions in general. I'm a bit cynical about this because we've known about this forever, so why has it suddenly become an issue now? What's your view?
I think that when people decide to have a crack at them is usually something to do with something that is not necessarily anything current. It's not people don't do it because it's something that's just happened. They do it because right at the moment, they've finished a trade deal or some, it's not likely to be anything to do with it being a important thing for today. It'll be to do with what the relationship with them is in general. and why now is a good time to have a crack, as far as I can see.
Actually, it's funny to say that because I've just got Mary Poppins, she wants me to call her, so I'll play that game. Mary. She said, I worked in Parliament IT and knew back in the 90s I think she meant the Chinese had access to the parliamentary network. I also worked at the GCSB. But interestingly, you would have also seen that now there's this revelation come out, and apparently without the knowledge of any Prime Minister was there at times, I find that hard to believe, that the GCSB and the New Zealand spy network was spying, I presume, for the Americans, Hilary. Their name has been given by the new over-controller or whatever, but I assume we've been spying for the Americans and passing on information that they can use for military purposes, yeah?
Well, over a period, remember all that furore about the beautiful big white balloony-looking thing in Christchurch.
Oh, yeah. Spy Valley. Why Hope I?
So, and when people were saying, why are we letting the Americans in here doing God knows what, because we don't.
Yeah.
And there was huge outrage on the basis of we didn't know what quite, but we ought to, perhaps. If we did know what it was, we might be concerned about it. All very weird, because that was at that time, since we didn't have climate change and things to be outraged about.
Yes, you're right. Yeah.
We had to be outraged about different things, and we were outraged about different things.
Yeah, it was Waihopa, I'm just told. And you're right, all the peace activists, as they called them. Now, all those so-called peace activists now pop up with incredible regularity in the Green movement, don't they?
Yes. I think it's interesting. We knew that the Green movement at the moment seems to be particularly focused on Palestinians.
Yes.
Of all the people in the world who are in the middle of a war and being harassed by another lot of people, turns out to be the Palestinians that are getting them going. It doesn't concern the Greens, people starving in other parts of the world for any other reason, as far as I can see. It's sort of not to do with the people. Because if it was to do with the people, why aren't you concerned about starving Africans or starving other people? It seems to be something political that makes you say that you can be outraged about Palestinians being starving, but you're not terribly concerned about Africans or whatever.
Yeah.
People are very picky about not only the thing that happens to people, but which people it happens to. And for the most part, the Greens make it easier by being concerned about the planet much more than the people living on it. So they're concerned about that we won't be able to grow food and we should all turn vegetarian things, but they're not generally concerned about people starving and not having enough food at all.
No, well, we just talked about that. I just had Gary Kelleher on the show just before 12 talking about a vote that the Otago Regional Council will be making tomorrow and its implications across the country, in actual fact, if they continue to defy the minister and this government. But I was just thinking, there's actually been very little. The Green Party itself on that particular issue has been silent. It's interesting, although there are Green councillors elected to that particular council. I haven't seen anything from the Green Party. I've seen Labour Party, I've seen National Party people saying things on it, but not the Green Party. They are distracted by causes of the moment.
Yes. Yeah, and usually they'd be in their boots and all of anything to do with environmental things.
Yeah.
And I wasn't for that reason picking on the Greens, and it's not that there aren't Nats and Labour Party and New Zealand First and other people concerned about. I'm not keen on what's happening to the Palestinians either, but I'm just, suddenly it's the Greens who seem to have been connected to the Palestinian cause particularly. I don't know whether they're any more connected or whether that's...
But the position of the Chinese is, it's always one of ambivalence to me, Hilary.
Yes.
You know, it's almost like the left don't know how to take the Chinese. So they don't take them at all. You know what I mean? I mean, you'd never see the Greens or the left in this country, even the mainstream media, really hopping into China. They'll report consequences of, obviously, for example, when the Chinese were thinking about putting a military base into the Solomon Islands, and then obviously the reaction of the US State Department to that.
And Taiwan.
Yeah, and those sorts of things. They report that. But
I think
there's an ambivalence
sort of
about, is China an enemy? Is China a friend? Is China a threat? I'm struggling to see, and in fact, there are academics in this country. One of them would be the China specialist, Professor Anne-Marie Brady, I think, from Canterbury University. You remember her? She was the one that thought she was getting burgled, and possibly was, by Chinese agents in this country. And she's been a very clear, China is a problem academic for a long, long time. But she gets very little coverage, really, and yet China is, in almost every part of our daily life.
Well, I think it's because for China, if you substituted the word China with the word Google or Microsoft or Amazon, I think you get a bit of your answer, because we really hate tech giants. We hate them with a vengeance often. We feel that they're doing mean things, that they're taking a whole lot more money than they should, and all sorts of things. We really don't like them. However, part of the reason we don't like them perhaps is that all the time, as we sit here, we're using them. We can't do without them. And that makes it much more annoying. But China's like that, I think, for us.